Make a wish for once with a secret. And if I manifest best, guess I'll keep it. I'm sick, go with the flow, new flow, up phones one day. Thought ones, thoughts come, what's run, yes, I need it.
Welcome to Pop Culture Cuties, the podcast that blends local business with the broader pop culture. Each week, I sit down with North Georgia's movers and shakers, business owners, creatives, and industry insiders to talk about their work, their journey, and how their field connects to the broader cultural landscape. So if you love great conversations over tea and wine, this is the place for you. So before we get started, I want to thank our friends and sponsors at Clayton Merchants and Business Association who have organized Ramshackle Street Festival. It's time to celebrate in downtown Clayton. The Ramshackle Street Festival returns on Saturday, June 7th, 2025. That's right, it's this weekend. The Ramshackle Street Festival will bring a full day of food, drinks, live music, and a family fun zone. Main Street will be alive with excitement as local vendors, musicians, and food trucks create an unforgettable experience. Now today, we are speaking with Mr. Tom Higgins, the owner-operator of Kaya Vineyards and Winery, a glittering star in the constellation of vineyards and tasting rooms which ornament Lumpkin County. So, Tom, welcome. Please tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so thank you very much, and glad to be here and try to share some things about our business and specifically me. I've got a pretty extensive background in the hospitality industry, as well as the beverage industry. Been doing the part ownership of Kaya Vineyards and Winery for the last 4.5 years, and enjoy every minute of it. Enjoy meeting new people, teaching people about our wonderful wines, as well as try to teach people the area that our wines are made of.
So let's begin with what everybody is already thinking. I'd call it the elephant in the room, except that elephants are not exactly attractive. What they are looking at, I think, is far more enchanting. Let's talk about I guess we'll call it the unicorn in the room, the unicorn on screen. And that is the long-range, uninterrupted mountain views of Kaya Vineyards and Winery.
Yes, we definitely have probably the most expansive views of any winery in North Georgia. You come to the mountains for views, and you get that here at Kaya Vineyards. We have about 270 degree views. I wish it was 365, but we'll take 270. And if you want views and lovely and awesome wines, you come to the best place at Kaya Vineyards.
Yeah, it's kind of central Tennessee in the back, and then you get North Carolina in the front.
Yes, and you get the Italian wines inside the tasting room.
Absolutely, with some Tuscany vibes with these vines,
yes.
Of course. I went to Dahlonega 4 years as a university student, and I have to say, I've never seen mountain views this pristine in Lumpkin County. So how does it feel to step on the property each day and call this work?
Yes, I looked at, it's kind of, a lot of people don't enjoy their waking up in the morning and going to work, and coming to work at this facility and what surrounds us excites me every day to wake up in the morning, get ready, and come to a beautiful place and try to share it with others. We have a motto here at Kaya. We like to say that our vineyard is your vineyard, so we want you to experience everything that we have to offer here. Wines, of course, and views, but just the surrounding areas is very beautiful.
Yes, because I have not been to a venue that lets you explore the way Kaya does. So I've walked, I think, essentially this whole perimeter, and no one stopped and said, what are you doing here? Why are you on this hill? What are you doing over taking pictures by these vineyards? Or, so much of it is accessible, not just by the facility, but also the Jeep range too. Do you mind telling us a little bit about what you guys do with the Jeeps?
Yeah, so every year, we're actually in our 9th year of doing what we call Jeeps and the Vines. It's an event that is well attended. We usually have anywhere between 800 to 1,000 people that attend our wonderful event. It's this year on June 14th, which is a week from this Saturday. So those of you that are watching, we'd love to have you here and enjoy the beautiful day. You don't necessarily need a Jeep to come to the event, even though it is called Jeeps in the Vines. It's a event that has plenty of music, of course, wonderful wines. We do have beer available, soft drinks, lovely food. We have about 23 to 24 vendors and a lovely property. Things that you mentioned was we have an obstacle course trail ride that we allow people to drive the 91 acres that we have here at Kaya and try to take in not only the views but get up and close in your Jeep with our vines and see the actual clusters start forming right in front of your eyes. We do have an obstacle course which is for all individual skill sets, from beginners to people that are more extreme Jeepers. So 400 Jeeps this year, so we look forward to having you out. If you want to come to our event, just go to KayaVineyards.com and you can sign up and register there.
Would you think less of me if I make a pun?
You can make as many puns as you want.
Jeepers Creepers, that sounds exciting.
Yeah. We have a lot of creepers here in the Jeepers.
That's true. A lot of cicadas.
Yes.
Love the sound of the cicadas in the evening. So I spent part of my childhood in North Carolina and still visit often. The view here at Kaya takes me right back to those kind of quiet afternoons, reading a book in the city park in Asheville, framed in mountains. It's serene, it's elevated, timeless, and so that's my response. When I came here, those were kind of the words that came to mind for me. But what kind of reactions do you typically see from guests when they first arrive at Kaya?
Every guest that arrives at Kaya, the first thing they say is, wow. Because it is a wow factor. Park your car, and as you're approaching our wonderful tasting room, the kind of mountain views just hit you right between the eyes. And so it's amazing to see so many people use that wow factor. And it's their eyes just light up and they glow and they're like, oh my gosh, I never knew this was even here.
Well, and typically people are drawn to the tasting room first, but as I was sitting there, especially today as I sat there and watched people come in, I noticed that people just immediately gravitate to that back deck. Mm-hmm. And everybody wants to sit along that line by the back deck.
Yes.
And when that area is full, you know, you get people that are watching and waiting, ready to pounce to go and take those spots. It really is that alluring.
It's like cats and catnip. You know,
yes.
they're ready to pounce on that catnip. But the nice thing about here, as we said earlier, our vineyard is your vineyard. And so there may be, the back deck may be full, but we're sitting in a beautiful field here right in front of the lovely Chardonnay vines. So no reason why you can't pull out a blanket and have a little picnic.
That's what I did last night. I took out my picnic blanket, brought my painting supplies, had a light snack, sipped some wine. It was amazing. So, and there's plenty of spaces to sit. There's, of course, the area underneath the covered pavilion, but there's more that we'll actually unpack later in the episode when we talk a little bit about creating wine culture.
Right.
But never fear on that account. There's always a place to sit. And let's talk a little bit about the grape varieties that you guys have in the region that we're in. Now, this is what I genuinely find so fascinating. You guys at Kaya, you're not simply a tasting room that happens to have grapes nearby. Like, the grapes aren't here for decoration. The vines aren't here for decoration. Kaya is an honest-to-goodness working vineyard. It's part of the agricultural patchwork, a quilt of Georgia. Can you tell us more about this region and why it's so well suited to growing such a variety of lush, flavorful grapes? And specifically, which varieties does Kaya cultivate here on the property?
Great questions. Kaya Vineyards is on a plateau called the Dahlonega Plateau. And just about 6 or 7 years ago, this area was placed on the map and is now considered an official wine region, much like Napa Valley, Sonoma, those wine regions that we typically know in California, wine regions in Italy and France. But about 7 or 8 years ago, Plateau had received its official AVA, which is a viticulture designate, and you have to apply for that. There are certain requirements that come into play when you are given an official AVA. There's only 2 AVAs here in North Georgia, we're sitting on one of them, Dahlonega Plateau. There are about 12 wineries that sit on the plateau. And the importance of the plateau and the AVA designation is that all the wineries are sitting on a similar latitudinal line. And if you break out your globe, that you may have as you were growing up, once in the globe, and what you'll notice is if you go to Napa Valley, Washington State, North Georgia, Italy, France, all those areas sit on the same latitudinal line. Why is that important? Well, the importance of that is all those areas that sit on that similar latitudinal line have very similar climates. And climate is one of the first things you need to start to be able to grow great wine. So we have a great climate, which in farming grapes is quite different than farming corn or soybeans. Corn and soybean farmers, they like wet, they don't like dry, whereas grape farmers, we enjoy the dry, hot weather because the grapes here, they just populate significantly by the warmth and the dry weather that we have here. It drives the sugar content within the grape, which is very, very important for fermentation as well as alcohol level.
So interesting.
And then you mentioned, Carly, about what varieties we have here.
Yeah.
So we grow about 7 different varieties here at Kaya. The two most popular ones is our Chardonnay, which is sitting right behind us. And then we also have a very large Cabernet crop as well, which sits on the backside of our property. In addition to that, we've got a Viognier, which is much like a Sauvignon Blanc. We have a Muscat, not Muscadine, may I say. It's a Muscat, which is a very different grape, but we use it for the natural sweetening of wines. We do not use processed sugar here, but we use the natural Muscat grape to sweeten any wine that we need to sweeten. We also grow Merlot. We have also Malbec, Sangiovese, Touriga. So we have some grapes, and also we have some Tannat as well. So we have a significant amount of grapes that we grow on property, which is one of the reasons why you come to Kaya, because we are a working farm and we just don't serve wine. We grow the grapes and produce the wine from those grapes.
Very interesting. And why is it so rare to find a working vineyard on this scale in the southeast Broad? Is it because of that plateau?
Well, one of the challenges that we have in North Georgia, being 1,600 feet above sea level, is that we all know that during March and April you typically will get frost. And all of our white wines, they open their buds typically at the beginning of March, where we all know that we're going to have some kind of frost in March. And that's the reason why it costs so much to farm grapes in North Georgia, because of the potential for frost. And the size of our winery, which we've got 16 planted acres of grapes, we got to protect those grapes from getting eaten up by frost. And that really costs a lot of money to protect those grapes.
Makes sense. And that lends into my next question. What kind of challenges, climate, terrain, and otherwise, does this region present for grape growing, and how has Kaya addressed them? And while you answer this, I'm going to zoom in a little bit on our camera.
One of the challenges we're having is the wind here in North Georgia, which creates potential issues when we have cold weather. We mentioned frost. Frost is the number one thing that we've got to protect that will take out an entire crop. And what we do here is much like orange growers in Florida. They use things called smudge pots, metal basin with a metal chimney up the middle, and we place those throughout the area or out throughout the vineyard, and we light them when there's potential frost to create heat. So the buds that are on the vines get protected from the frost. That becomes very costly because you're using a lot of diesel fuel, which diesel fuel, as we know, is very expensive.
Yes.
And then the amount of labor going into putting those out, lighting them, as well as making sure that the vineyard doesn't go on fire and go up in flames. So frost is one of our main issues. The other issue that arises here in North Georgia is, believe it or not, people think deer, bears, all those animals are significantly eating up the grapes. It really doesn't present an issue here at the winery, mainly because our grapes that grow are too high for the deer to eat.
Okay.
Deer like to eat with their heads down. That their heads up, so they won't typically come out and try to eat the grapes because they are too high. The animal or insect that is the biggest problem is bees. Bees during the fall are looking for food, and typically it's juice or sugar, and they love the grapes because they can get a lot of sugar during harvest time. That's what we try to generate in our grapes, is high amounts of sugar. So we try to beat the bees to the grapes by harvesting before the swarms of bees come out. We do put netting around our grapes to protect the grapes from bees. Don't like to have netting on their wings, they'll fly away, but obviously the smaller bees get through and they'll puncture the grape, suck the juice out, and you end up having less grapes to harvest.
And for those that have now I wouldn't suggest that anyone in our audience has a bee phobia to the degree that I have, because my bee phobia is psychotic. Like if a bee comes in during this episode, I'm probably gonna flip this and stop.
Yes.
Now I no longer scream, but I do run.
Right.
So terrible bee phobia. But for those of us that have these, inclinations, you can still, I'm sure, come and enjoy the atmosphere and the outside area and all of that, right?
Right. Yeah, you can still enjoy the area. The bees are mainly focused on the vines. Mm-hmm. So as long as during that time you're not interacting with the vines, you'll be 100% fine, no worries at all.
Yeah, that's what I would imagine.
And you won't see Carly running across the vineyard.
No. As far as many wineries in the region, they source their grapes, and what does it take to not only grow your own, but to do so with such consistency and success? Because as I recall, you guys produce like 53,000, was it casks?
So we have, we actually harvest 53 tons of grapes a year. And from those 53 tons of grapes, we can get about 5,500 cases of wine. And we tend to sell, just in our tasting room, about 4,500 to 5,000 cases a year just through the tasting room itself.
That's huge. Yeah. Wow. And the infrastructure in place.
And we are consistent because we have great winemaker.
Yeah.
And our winemaker that we have is dedicated and committed just to our winery. So a lot of times in North Georgia, you'll have a winemaker that is a winemaker for multiple wineries. And what they're doing there is they're trying to find a home to do their harvest and then share that with other wineries. We have a very lucky place here in that we have a great winemaker that is dedicated just to making wine for Kaya.
And he talked his way out of a ticket yesterday.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Proud
I don't
of
know
him.
how he did that.
He did that for America.
Yes. I think he may have bartered some wine.
Well, it's very good wine, so I can understand that. And that's, that is, I think, a difference between Kaya and a lot of other vineyards that I've visited, is that it is a place for beginners, for baby wine drinkers like me, people who are still dipping their toes in the water. But also, it really is a place for the aficionado.
Yeah.
Because every single aspect of the winemaking process, is it done here?
All done here, yes. And so one of the things that we're well known for at Kaya Vineyards is that we are a very large estate winery. And what that means is we grow all our grapes here, we ferment them here, we produce them here, we bottle it here, everything's done here on premises. Now, even if we brought grapes in from outside of the region, I'll give you an example, Carly. So Pinot Noir, grape wine, those grapes do not grow very well here. It's just too hot. And so we will go outside and purchase those grapes from, say, Washington State. We know where our weaknesses, our challenges are, so we take those head on and we bring in grapes from outside the region so we can offer that wonderful wine to our guests when they come visit us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think most people would prefer that, rather than growing a weak Pinot grape, to source it from where it's best.
Yes.
Now, have you noticed a growing interest or appreciation in southeastern wine production locally, but also nationally? Are people seeking out southeastern wine?
Probably over the last 3 years, since COVID, really, people have started to notice North Georgia as a player in the wine industry. But we still have a lot of people just living in Georgia that don't know that we have such great wineries in North Georgia. You may live 20 minutes away. I think you mentioned you went to school 15 minutes from our wonderful winery. We sat right here in your backyard, and you may not even known it.
And I didn't know it was accessible.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I thought that to go to a winery that you had to pay for maybe like a full tasting, that it would cost hundreds of dollars, but that's not true at all. Like, you can come here with your laptop and you can buy a few glasses of wine and work on your computer or read a book or meet with friends. It's a little like a coffee shop in that way.
Absolutely.
And of course you can come for the tastings, and you should come for the tastings. They're amazing, but I never understood the accessibility of it.
Yeah. And that's one of the things we pride ourselves is to make it accessible and make it affordable for you to enjoy the wine here. Obviously, if you come to Kaya Vineyards for the first time, we're obviously going to recommend you do a tasting because we want you to have a good understanding of some of the wines that we do have here. And all of our tastings are made with our estate wine grapes. And obviously, after you have a tasting, you'll figure out which wine you're going to indulge in, and you'll order a glass and enjoy the rest of the views. And obviously take a bottle home because you want those experiences to last a long time.
Absolutely, and the tastings are very affordable. I think it was under $30.
Yes.
And it's quite a sumptuous amount of wine. I think it was 5 different selections, as I recall.
You get five. We have 4 different flights available that you get to choose from. So if you're a white drinker, you don't have to worry about drinking red wine. You can have a flight of white wines. If you're a red wine connoisseur and you don't like white wine, you just have the red flight. And then we also have our mixed flight. So we have something for everyone. And you do get five wines to enjoy and sip on. You really get a good cross-section of what we have available.
You're done with
Absolutely.
It teaches you a lot.
Yes.
I thought that I was exclusively a Cabernet drinker until very recently. And this summer I thought, well, I want to try something more chilled. And I've kind of cemented that here, that I am now I guess it's a Sauvignon Blanc drinker. And I especially like when it's, I guess you might say, fermented in the metal cask.
Yeah, stainless steel.
Stainless steel, thank you.
Yes. So when we ferment grapes, we can do it, most of all of our reds are fermented in an oak barrel. And then obviously on the white side, you can either ferment it in an oak barrel or what we call a stainless steel barrel. The difference is, obviously, if you're fermenting in an oak barrel, you're going to get the oak flavors in that wine. Whereas if you're fermenting in a stainless steel barrel, you're going to be able to taste all the wonderful citrusy, fruity notes that wine has to offer.
And it's so clear. Now, again, tell us a little bit about the cultures. Anyone can visit Kaya. As we said, it can be a baby wine drinker, it can be a daytime worker, it can be someone with a laptop, a group of friends, a wine aficionado. What creates this sort of culture here at Kaya?
I think it all stems back to the saying that I used earlier is our winery is your winery. And, we want you to enjoy the experience and create this experience that you'll cherish for the rest of your life and want to come back. Because, obviously we want our first timers to be lifetimers. We want them to be coming back. We enjoy those customers. We enjoy every customer. But we really enjoy those customers that are continuing to come back. And maybe they join our wonderful wine club and as well.
Absolutely. And as that was my next question, please tell us about the wine club.
Yeah, we have a great wine club here at Kaya Vineyards. Very much different than a lot of other wine clubs. Here you can accumulate 1 to 2 bottles a month. But the difference between Kaya's wine club and many other wine clubs is that we allow you to enjoy the wine that you get during your membership while you're on your visit and your experience. A lot of other wineries, they do not allow you to utilize your wine that you actually generate through your membership while you're at the winery. You have to take them home and then buy an additional glass or bottle. Allow you to enjoy the membership that you have and you pay for every single month. The day of your visit.
That's wild to me. I didn't realize that. So that is a great perk. And how has the wine club helped build a sense of community around?
Yeah, so it started back, well, probably before COVID, but it really seemed itself during COVID. It's interesting, during COVID, everybody was very worried about social distancing, and we made it known to everyone that we have 91 acres here at Kaya. Bring your tents, bring your blankets, spread out, enjoy the 91 acres. During COVID, we weren't allowed to open up bottles, and so we put our wine in kegs, and we had our doors closed, had a window open, almost like you're at an ice cream shop.
Yeah.
And you brought your own milk jug or a 2-liter Coke bottle, and we filled up those with wine. So people got to enjoy our wonderful wine in the most beautiful milk jugs I've ever seen.
That is so fun. It's almost like a festival.
Yeah.
That must have been really, in its own way, it must have been somewhat moving, but I'm sure you really did get that sense of community. It sounds like it's translated through the years.
Yes, absolutely.
That's very
and
cool.
And we've held on to that time, and we cherish that time. We remember that time. It was obviously a struggle for a lot of people, struggle for us as well, but we learned how to get through that and have fun while we're at it, with a very traumatic time of a lot of people's lives. And we tried to kind of add a little fun to that time, and people want to get out and enjoy even when you're involved in a traumatic situation.
Sure. And that's what being human is all about, right? And I love that, just as epidemics and pandemics are timeless, so is wine. And so is finding ways to keep community, and finding ways to be happy, and finding ways to survive. So It's a timeless story.
Yes.
And that concludes our question and answer segment. We're going to transition now into our rapid fire. Now, this rapid fire is a little bit different. Instead of just asking you to answer questions in 3 to 5 words that are a little silly, it is still a little silly.
Okay, I can do silly.
It's called Pop Culture Cutie. So you ready to be a Pop Culture Cutie?
I'm going to try. I'm going to try my hardest.
So my question to you is, if your group chat were a wine list, what wines represent each friend in the group chat?
Okay.
And our first friend of the group chat is the one who ghosts. Like you see the symbol pop up that says has just left the chat.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say Malbec.
Okay, why Malbec?
Malbec is a very spicy wine, and it is like a ghost, because when you drink it, you're not going to expect the wonderful finish that Malbec gives you as a wine. So you're drinking it, and all of a sudden, boom, you get the spiciness of the wine.
Okay.
And so you don't expect it, but it's there.
That was a great answer. So,
how am I doing? Good?
You're a pop culture cutie.
Oh, there
you're
you
a
go.
natural.
All right.
And you guys tell us, is Mr. Higgins a pop culture cutie? Now, what about the oversharer? Who are they?
Oh, the oversharer is probably, I would say, have to be a Chardonnay. Yeah, people love that Chardonnay. It's a nice white wine, and they share it too much, and they don't have any left for themselves. Chardonnay would be the oversharer for sure.
Yeah, either that or like a sparkling, a sparkling rosé.
Yeah,
Bubbly.
We actually have a very good bubbly here.
I've heard that.
Good bubbly sparkling wine. The thing about sparkling wine, so if I can share.
By all means, please.
Okay, so sparkling wine is different than champagne or prosecco. Sparkling wine is fermented inside the bottle. So we take a juice such as Chardonnay juice, unfermented. We put it in a bottle. We put yeast in the bottle, cap the bottle, and let it sit for 14 days. After 14 days, the juice now is turned to alcohol, and now we got to take the yeast out. So we use a special machine filled with glycol, which is a natural freezing agent, and we put the bottle upside down in this machine, and we freeze the neck of the bottle, forcing the yeast to come out.
Okay.
And then the yeast pops out, put a little extra juice in it, recap it, and there you got sparkling.
I had no
the
idea.
yeast is actually what causes the carbonation of sparkling. We do not gas it like champagne or prosecco.
And that's funny. I thought, and again, I got a 69.5 in my science class in my university, and that was rounded up because I basically threatened my professor. I said, "That's fine if I fail. I'll just take your class again." And guys, that's how you turn D's into C's.
There you go.
So when I hear sparkling rosé, I just think like it go bubble. Like,
yeah.
I would have never guessed there's this whole process
Absolutely.
to it.
Yeah.
Now, what about the lurker? So the one that like scrolls and reads, and you can see like the read receipt is there, but they don't say anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say Touriga. Touriga is a Portuguese grape, and the thing about Touriga, has very earthy and woodsy notes. So it's actually like you're in the woods lurking, like a deer would be lurking in the woods or a lion, mountain lion, ready to pounce on its prey. So sitting in the woods. So Touriga would be my guess because of the woodsy, earthy notes of that wine.
That checks. What about the Cynic?
Ooh, the Cynic would probably have to be Cabernet.
Yes.
Yeah. Cabernet, there's so many things you can do with Cabernets. You can have a very acidic Cabernet. high tannins, or you can have a very mild Cabernet where it has low tannins and very little acidity. But they do compete with each other because each one wants to win. Cabernet is one of those wines where people are looking to win, and there's so many different varieties of Cabernet.
And,
so it fits that cynic.
Totally see that.
Yeah.
The one that, if any of them were to wear a beret and smoke a cigarillo, it would be a
Absolutely,
Cabernet.
for sure.
So the group, our last one, the group chat villain.
Ooh, the group chat villain, I will have to say...
Start the drama, you know?
Yeah, stainless steel Vignette.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's the one that will just... people don't realize about it. It's a Sauvignon Blanc, and I think it's one of the wines that you enjoy.
My favorite.
And they don't realize what that wine... They never hear of a Vignette.
Sure.
Right? And it comes and attacks you, and you fall in love with it, and it'll just steal your heart.
I love that.
Yeah.
And now, going into our segment where we connect our conversations with the broader pop culture. So I want to talk about wine aesthetics in movies and on TikTok and the internet, and kind of get a feel about what you think is kind of meaningful about that, because I have noticed that wine is more than just a drink in storytelling. It's a signal, it's a motif, it's basically its own character. It's as in, it is part of the costuming. So, like, think of the villain. They're always slowly turning a goblet of red wine in her hand, or like the women of Sex and the City, or Emily in Paris. They always are gathered around a bottle of like rosé, like gazelles at a watering hole. And it's no longer spill the tea to suggest gossip. It should be pop the cork.
Right.
What do you think why do you think wine holds such symbolic weight in stories? Like, what is it about wine that makes it such a powerful shorthand for character, mood, and status?
Well, it starts with BC. Where did wine? Remember, water turned into wine. I know it's a religious thing, but back in Jesus turned water into wine.
Yeah.
It started way back then. I think people, it stayed with people, and wine became this, like, okay, well, if we're gonna have a dinner and we'll have people over, yeah, you can have a beer or a mixed drink, but wine just fits. It fits just about everything that you can do except for food. You can eat chocolates and wine. You can have steak and wine.
Fish.
You can have fish and wine. You can have potato chips and wine. You can have popcorn. So wine goes with everything, and it plays a really big role in people's lives.
Always has.
Yeah. And I think it will always continue to be that way. Beer, changes over time. Look at seltzers now. That's the biggest.
Yeah.
You may have like 200 different seltzers out there, and that's a fad.
Sure.
That'll come and go. But the one thing that doesn't come and go is wine. Wine will always be there, and it always will serve a purpose in people's lives.
And it's something that has been so refined and purified.
Yeah.
Every single generation puts its fingerprints on.
Yes.
There's new places where it can be grown. There are probably grapes that you can cultivate more now than you could in the past.
Yep.
But the essentials stay the same. I don't know if there will be there's wine slushies. I must say that.
Yeah, they do make those here too.
I saw that.
Harley, we think about wine drinkers, and if I would to ask one of your viewers, okay, when I say wine drinker, what's the type of person that comes in your mind? You think of the 55, 60-year-old, person that's been through life and through the challenges and through maturity, and now they're going to this drink that's just kind of on a pedestal.
Yeah.
But now we're seeing people in their 20s, in their 30s, now becoming wine connoisseurs and actually making an effort to be a wine connoisseur versus staying with, a liquor or a beer. So the question, who do you think about right away when you say wine? It's not as clear anymore because those that we thought would not be wine drinkers are now becoming wine drinkers. And so when you come to Kaya, you'll see that on a Saturday. We have people in their 20s, late 20s, and we have people that are 80 years old enjoying our wines.
It's true.
Yeah.
And especially as we become more hobbyists, one of the things about COVID is that we became more hobbyists. Mm-hmm. And for instance, my husband during that time started making his own wine. If you can believe it, he doesn't like wine, but we're working on it. He also didn't used to like coffee.
See, there you go.
And now he does. But I have seen where like wine talk on TikTok or on Instagram. It's a huge portion of Instagram's culture is wine and winemaking and visiting vineyards. So,
well, remember, the story about red wine and health. Remember, red wine's good for you.
I do remember that.
It's heart protective.
Yes.
So that's another reason why now wine has become a staple in a lot of people's lives. They think it's going to save their life. Make it heart protective. There's things in moderation, and yes, there is some truth to that. But obviously, that's kind of what people say. Red wine, oh my gosh, it's good for you because it's heart protective. Yeah. It's good for the heart.
Absolutely, and it's good for your brain.
Yeah.
And it's good for your morale. Like, if I have a really tedious piece of work that I have to do, it's with a glass of wine.
Yes.
So,
wine's, it just calms the nerves.
It does.
And it does it in a very subtle way.
Mellowing.
Yes.
It's absolutely mellowing.
Yeah.
When I used to grade, I used to be a teacher. I'm going to be honest. Reading through some of those essays was...
No, I bet.
That was tough. And it made me a much nicer grader. I always felt better for my students whose essays I would grade at the end of a glass of wine than at the beginning.
Yeah.
We'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
We'll leave that to suffice.
Could you tell those that were drinking wine and writing essays, or I guess the people that you were grading weren't drinking wine?
No, they were high school students. So I hope they weren't drinking
I hope
wine.
So too.
It was grape juice. Why do reality shows use wine as both a prop and a pressure point? So, I think of The Bachelor, Real Housewives, Love is Blind. Wine is always on the table because I think it softens truth, but it also sharpens conflict. How do you think wine functions as both a comfort and a catalyst?
That's a very, very good question.
So we just talked about the mellowing aspect.
Yeah. It is a staple of people's lives. You see paintings, you paint, and grapes growing on a vine are very soothing, and the wine itself, juice, red wine specifically, is a nice thing to put on a table, and it's a staple, and it won't go bad. If it sits there for 2 hours, wine's not going to taste like vinegar. It's not going to go bad. So it's a staple, but it's also something that people can go to soothe their nerves and use it as a kind of a break the ice type of thing without having too much alcohol.
That's where you get your catalyst.
Yeah, you go. Exactly right.
Wine loosens lips.
Yes,
for sure.
It sure does.
And you see things like that in Game of Thrones. You're like, I need to commit some palace intrigue. Let me loose the lips of my enemy with some wine. So, does wine feel elite, or is it more emotional? So, in different contexts, wine can either elevate the experience, but it can also intimidate people. Why does wine carry both an air of exclusivity, but also a sense of intimacy? And I think this kind of will encapsulate everything we've talked about so far.
Yeah. In the intimidation side, also confidence. People don't know a lot of it, so they go into it like, okay, I don't know the questions. People come to the winery, they don't know what questions to ask. They know what they like, but then they don't see it on the menu, and so they don't feel confident in talking because they didn't want to feel like they're unknowledgeable about wine. So it becomes an intimidation factor, because if they're with a group that is enjoying wine and has some wine connoisseurs, they don't want to feel like they're the elephant in the room.
That's a really good point. And as we wrap up our show, what do you want the viewer to know about Kaya Vineyards and winery?
I think the biggest thing we talked about, and it's a consistent theme, is our winery is your winery, and we want to create that unforgettable experience that you'll remember for ages. There are families that get married here, and then 2-3 years later they're having a baby, and guess what the name of the baby is?
It's not Kaya.
It is Kaya. And so we have lots of stories like that where Kaya is now a name that they named their child in. And then they come back every year during their anniversary, not only their wedding anniversary, but also the baby's anniversary and birthday.
Well, that's beautiful.
To enjoy. And so
how
wonderful it is to have a business be a child's name.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
You don't have a child named Toys R Us.
No, you don't.
Or Walmart.
Probably not. Hope not.
But Kaya.
Yeah, you can absolutely do that.
And Kaya, by the way, since we are sitting on Cherokee acquired land back in the days, Kaya means spirit of the earth in Cherokee.
Well, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's one of those subtle things.
Sure. And how can we connect with Kaya Vineyards and Winery?
Go to kayavineyards.com and you'll learn a lot about what we have to offer here, our story of how we became Kaya. We bought Kaya from a winery called Blackstock, and unfortunately, back in 2013, they lost their entire crop due to frost. You know, we talked about frost and how devastating frost can be in terms of farming grapes.
Sure.
And they lost their crop, and so they went bankrupt, and we actually came in and bought the winery back in 2013. So we want people to have a great experience. We want them to experience that. And one of our wines is called Ula. It is the first wine that we generated under the Kaya label. Ula is named after our primary owner, Bill Werkheiser's wife, Andrea's mom. She passed away when she was 12 years old. And when Bill went to buy the winery, Andrea said, "Bill, I'm not going to let you do it unless you name your first wine after my mother." And that was Ula. And he did the exact thing, and now look at where we've come since 2013.
What a lovely tribute. Now, before we leave, I want to thank our friends and sponsors at Clayton Merchants and Business Association who have organized Ramshackle Street Festival. It's time to celebrate in downtown Clayton. The Ramshackle Street Festival returns this Saturday, June 7th, 2025, bringing a full day of food, drinks, live music, and the family-friendly fun zone. Main Street will be alive with excitement as local vendors, musicians, food trucks, as well as the local restaurants bringing their food outside and create an unforgettable experience. So local vendors with unique crafts, artwork, locally made products from talented artisans and small businesses. So it's not just a craft fair, it's an art and artisan exhibit. They're doing live demonstrations. There's delicious food and drinks. There will be craft beer and wine, and you are able to walk and drink your beer because this is a music festival as well, in a sense. Enjoy the family-friendly environment, including games and activities, face painting, moon bounces, cotton candy, all of that stuff, face painting, live music on the main stage, experience outstanding performances throughout the day, Rising Star, Breeze Cable, Cabanova, and headliner Town Mountain. So that is all for today. Thank you, Mr. Higgins, for joining us today. Be sure to tune in next Thursday for our Instagram live session, or catch our latest episode fully edited on Spotify and YouTube. We can't wait to have you join us. Take care.
Make a wish for once with a secret. And if I manifest best, guess I'll keep it. I'm so gay with the flame, new fate up phones one day. Thoughts come, what's run, yes, I need it.